Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. The speaker today is an individual that carries a gun. However, he says he welcomes all questions because the nitty-gritty of his message depends upon your interest. Gilbert Salinas is the Executive Vice President of the Brownsville Economic Development Corporation, a group that's dedicated to corporate recruitment and economic growth for the greater Brownsville and Matamoros border blacks. Mr. Salinas regularly meets with top-level executives of Fortune 500, companies pertaining to the opportunities that Brownsville and Matamoros and the Port of Brownsville have to offer. Currently, he's working on a development pipeline that would be a game-changing opportunity for enterprise projects in the Brownsville-Matamoros area. Most recently, Mr. Salinas has been working a project of significant impact for the region with space exploration technologies, or better known as SpaceX, which is considering building the world's first commercial rocket launcher site in the Brownsville, Boca Chica area. In 2013, Mr. Salinas received a prestigious award, being named one of 40 under 40. I guess that tells me his age. Rising stars in economic development in the United States. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Salinas has been featured in Univision, in the morning show with Despierta America, where he has discussed the industry as it relates to the Brownsville-Matamoros region, and has appeared numerous times with the senior correspondent Maria Antonieta Collins. Mr. Salinas has also been quoted extensively in such publications as the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, the New York Times, Forbes magazine, regarding the industry of economic trends. Most recently, he was featured as a participant in Space.com, that's a leading outlet for news related to the space industry. Mr. Salinas has a bachelor's of journalism from the University of Texas in Austin, and a master's of communication from the University of Texas, Pan American. In his off time, Mr. Salinas has been casted as a player of one of the bad guys in those roles of those Texas films that have been developed here. Most recently, he played the role of a pistolero. Last time I talked to him, I said, you know, you look like one. And so he played that role aside or next to award-winning Academy winner Robert Duvall. And that is going to be presented in 2014?
Yeah, early 2014. Whoa, things work.
Look out for the Valley Pistolero. Please help me welcome Gilbert Salinas with an applause.
Thank you, JD. Can you all hear me? Yeah? Good. Thanks. Before I get into the presentation, I would like to recognize you all, the McCount Realtors, for having me here. Muchísimas gracias. Y gracias por habernos acompañado hoy. Thanks for joining us here today. I think you all will be in for a nice treat in the sense of some of the activity that we have going on. One, in the valley, and two, in our neck of the woods down in the Brownsville area, and three, just talking about space. I mean, that in itself is just cool. And secondly, I would like to recognize Miss Leticia Flores. She's with the Governor's Office for Economic Development. And I will say that the Governor's Office has been, it's not a coincidence that the state of Texas is #1 in job creation, has been #1 in job creation in the United States for the last 10 years. I mean, it's no accident. That's because of what the Governor's Office, the Economic Development Team has been doing in empowering the local economic development boards and councils throughout the state of Texas. And then with you all as well. I mean, you all, I know I was speaking to one of your colleagues that you all are also an important and integral part in driving and stimulating the local economy. It's not just about selling homes and trying to make a deal. It's really about trying to think, look into the future and think about what it is that, how your community should look, and two, the role that you all play in that as well. So, that being said, before I touch on SpaceX, just going to run through some of the activity that we have in the Brownsville, what we call the Brownsville Borderplex. I don't think Borderplex is an actual word. It's something that we started using a couple years ago. The Brownsville Matamoros Borderplex. We got that from the DFW Metroplex. Lo and behold, it's kind of catching on when we're meeting with corporate executives and what have you. They start talking about the actual Borderplex. So that's what we're calling ourselves, Brownsville Borderplex. In positioning the Borderplex, we have been for the last 5 years investing in infrastructure, which is critical in economic development. It's critical in stimulating and having an impact on generating wealth in a region. So in doing that, we started working on that during the economic downturn about 5 years ago. We pretty much took a step back and started asking ourselves, what do we want to be when we grow up? And it's a very interesting question, but once you start asking yourself that as an organization, we started coming up with some ideas, and sure enough, we said we want to be an international city. Similar to what Houston, Miami, New York, just a smaller version of it. Well, we started doing the research, and lo and behold, we are an international city. We just weren't acting like one. So we just started saying, let's start acting like one, and we started looking at our infrastructure that we have, and started investing in that. And now the pipeline is full. The pipeline is full. And a lot of that is by way of companies outside of the United States. So I think it's been very interesting. We've come a long way since then. When we're thinking kind of small, now we're thinking big, and we found out that the whole world is out there for us to take. So I'm going to divide some of the projects that we have in regards to infrastructure. I'm going to divide those into 3-4 different categories. One of them is on the real estate side. We now have a 400-acre development-ready site. We're calling it the large industrial user site. You could have a mega site, but I think you have to have more than 500 acres in order for you to call it a mega site. And it's no secret, in meeting with some of these major companies, let's say those that are interested in perhaps setting up an assembly operation of some sort, you need at least 700 to 800 acres, preferably 1,000 acres, in order to get your foot in the door to start meeting with these companies. And that's pretty much what we were told. So since then, we've started amassing acreage. So right now we're at about 400, and it's development ready. We also have an industrial park that's shovel ready. It's about a 75 acre industrial park. Now we have zones as a result of having the SH550, which is the I-69 connector, connecting the new I-69 to the Port of Brownsville. Now that's opened up some space for industrial zones, as well as the East Loop corridor. We have now some additional space there. And then, well, one of my favorites, of course, is now we're looking at the creation of an aerospace, business, and development park. I mean, that's just cool, huh? On the energy side, now we have an 800 megawatt power plant. That's a collaboration between the Tenaska Power Group out of Nebraska and the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. That one is going through the environmental process as we speak, and we're looking at breaking ground here at the beginning of the year, next year. 345 kV lines now coming in to feed off of that power plant, something we have not had in the past. High voltage DC ties now into Mexico as well. Also an LNG liquefaction plant. I mean, that's also online. We're on the second 2.5 years in the environmental process of developing that project for the Port of Brownsville. Offshore wind farm project off of South Padre Island. That one's also going to benefit the area tremendously. And then also what's interesting is our proximity. And when I say our, it's really the Rio Grande Valley. To the Eagle Ford Shell fracking, that's not too far from here, and then the new oil discoveries in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're starting to see activity associated with those two in our area. Water management, we have a desal plant. So I know a lot of parts of Texas are kind of hurting for water right now. Well, during the economic downturn, we also started addressing our water needs, and we have a desal plant there in the Brownsville area that's now supplementing our water needs, especially for industry. So that's proven to be a boon for us as well. And then on the communication side, we have Project Stargate. I'll touch a little bit on that one here in a bit, and that one correlates with the SpaceX project. And then fiber optics to actually feed into this particular project as well. And then on the human capital side, we have an all-in program that is now helping bridge the gap between business, industry, and higher education, as well as grade school in addressing human capital. We actually, here in the Valley, we have quite a few technical programs and colleges that help us with our workforce needs, with training. And of course, I mean, this is not new to you all. Now we have the merger of the UTs, and that one is also going to feed nicely into the SpaceX project, and then the medical school as well. And so, coming back to our strategy about, well, I don't want to say taking over the world, but reaching out to players around the world. It's no secret. I mean, that's exactly what is in our crosshairs: foreign direct investment. Don't get me wrong. Mexico continues to be a fertile ground for us, as well as other parts of the United States. But there is a whole world out there, so particularly for our region, South America. Right now, since we decided that when we grow up, we wanted to be an international city, now of all projects that we have in our pipeline, 70% of those are foreign direct investment. As a result of that, we were named the #8 American City of the Future for 2013-2014 for our strategy in marketing and recruitment worldwide. So with that, by the way, if you all have any questions, I don't know what would be easier, if you all want to ask while I'm speaking, or if you all want to wait till the end. But nonetheless, it's if you feel you're going to forget, by all means raise your hand and I'll address your question. So as a result now, we are working this project by the name of Space Exploration Technologies, which is SpaceX. The founder of the company, his name is Elon Musk. We've met with him because we're working that project for the Brownsville area. We've been fortunate enough to meet with him several times, and he's a very, very interesting individual. He is the next, if not already, the next Steve Jobs. He's really thinks outside the box. He made his money when he was mid-20s with PayPal. He was a co-founder for PayPal, sold that enterprise, and then he established SpaceX. Another company that he formed was Tesla Motors. He's been in the news for that one as well. And then the other one is Solar City, which ties into both SpaceX as well as Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors are the high-end electric sports vehicles. And then for the rockets and for the Dragon capsule that he builds, those also utilize solar panels. So that company, you can see how those companies are vertically integrated already. On the project that we're working with them, we're looking into building what would be the first commercial rocket launch site in the world. And right now, if you think about a launch site where you launch rockets, different from a spaceport. Spaceports are basically an airport with an extended runway. And there's about 12 of those here in the United States. Launch sites in the United States, there's only 4. There's one in Alaska. There's one in Vandenberg, California, which is outside of LA. There's one that's not very active right now. It's in Virginia. And then you have the one that we're all most familiar with, which is a huge complex that's at Cape Canaveral. Those are all on federal property or military bases. And the same goes for launch sites around the world. They're all on military bases. This would be the actual first one that would be considered private. The project would actually entail bringing down the components of the Falcon 9 rocket. The Falcon 9 rocket is it's pretty big. It's actually bigger than the space shuttle. It doesn't look like the space shuttle. The Falcon Heavy, which is another line of rockets that they have, is the one that looks like the space shuttle. They would actually bring the Falcon 9 rocket in pieces, and they would do final assembly of it in the Brownsville area. And then they would roll it out. They would stand it up, and then it would take off into space. The Falcon Heavy, which is a much bigger rocket, that one would actually require full assembly of that rocket, including the actual capsule itself, at a location in the Brownsville area, and then it would get launched into outer space. So that in itself would already create several hundred jobs, very, very good paying jobs. I think their average salary for this particular project is upward of about $70,000. Once you get into the several hundreds of jobs, you start to see the multiplier effect of that on that particular project. The economic impact that it would have in this whole region, basically from Brownsville to McAllen, is about $70 million just in annual salaries alone. Times 7 with the multiplier effect, you can start to see how it's going to be a boon for the area. On the tourism side, we would be looking at about, for every unmanned capsule, that's the key word, unmanned, basically non-space shuttle launch at Cape Canaveral, they attract 40,000 visitors to that Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral area. I don't know, I don't think we'll get 40,000 visitors for every launch that we would have here. We're guessing, projecting it would be around 15,000 visitors. Nonetheless, we don't have 15,000 rooms, one in Cameron County, and maybe between Cameron County and Hidalgo, we might be able to accommodate all those people. And then on the flip side is that, a lot of people, well, we're going to have to drive to Brownsville to see these rocket launches. Most people who have seen, a lot of people who have been to the space shuttle launches, they've said that they've seen it as far away as Orlando, Florida. And if you all have not been to that area, Orlando's about an hour away from Cape Canaveral. So that gives you an idea. I mean, you'll be able to see it from here. Probably not hear it, but you'll be able to see it. Another component of the project, so we have the actual launch site. So the launch site's where the rocket actually gets assembled, final assembly. You have these huge hangars, they roll it out, then it has a launch pad with the flame ducts, and off it goes into space. That'll be built at the Boca Chica Beach area. If you all are not familiar with Boca Chica Beach, it is, you have South Padre Island, then you have the Brownsville ship channel that cuts into it and goes into Brownsville. And then there's a strip of beach between that ship channel, which is basically the southern part of South Padre Island, to the mouth of the Rio Grande, and that's about 8 miles. That's where the actual, and that's what we call the Brownsville Beach, because that's the only way to get to that beach is through Brownsville. So that's where they would actually be building the site, and it would be, several hundred feet away from the actual coastline, from the actual surf. Why the Brownsville area? It's very interesting that when we started doing our research, and by all means, I mean, we were not experts in the aerospace industry when we started working this project. I mean, down here in the valley, I mean, we're known for making things. That's what we do. We manufacture, and we transport as well. We're a logistics hub. But when we started working, and we had, I'm not going to say no clue, but pretty close to it as to how the aerospace industry works. So we started fully immersing ourselves in that topic. And what we found out was that Brownsville was actually one of 8 sites being considered back in the late 1950s for what is now Cape Canaveral. So the research back then was being done, and Brownsville was shortlisted. And here we are again. It's interesting how life has now come back in full circle, and we're getting a second opportunity at it. And I've devoted my entire time to make sure that we don't lose it now that we have another chance at it. We are the southernmost city, the southernmost region. We're still further south than Miami in the continental United States. So that is attractive to this company, or for that matter, for any company that's going to launch rockets into outer space, simply because the closer you are to the equator, the less fuel you have to use to launch your rocket, and a heavier payload you can take into outer space. And then also, for those rockets, you're going to be doing what's called equatorial launches, or orbits. That means you have to launch from the East Coast, because you're going to take advantage of the Earth's rotational effect and use it as a slingshot to get you into outer space quicker. The ones on the West Coast, those are for polar orbits. I'm going to quiz you all, by the way. The ones on the West Coast, Alaska and California, those are for polar orbits. Those are north and south. So that's why our area became very attractive. And also, we're in the Gulf of Mexico. You need to be on a coast in case of a catastrophic event, which, knock on wood, it'll fall into the ocean. And and then we're manufacturing, like I said, we're a manufacturing and logistics hub. And that also has been of interest to the company, because that's what we do. Now, originally, we were one of 13 sites being considered in Texas. It was basically from Brownsville to the King Ranch area. And we were not the front runners. But we hung in there, and in the end, it was between us and another area close to another community, and then I think it was a certain wildlife critter that kind of killed the deal north of us, and ended up in the Brownsville area. And that being said, we're now in the midst of the environmental process, going through the process of doing their environmental checks with the company. They are working with the FAA. The FAA they're the ones that are going to decide whether the company will be able to launch from our area or not. And this has been a process that we have been working for about a year and a half now. And we started actually working this particular project in March of 2011. And shortly thereafter, we started having meetings, one with the company, but two with local companies as well, and trying to see how it would fit in our area. Then after that, we started doing work in the environmental. No different from when a county or a city has to build a certain bridge or a road. They have to go through an environmental process. Well, the same applied for this company. And it's been a very rigorous process, if I may add. But now we're towards the end, and as far as timeline is concerned with the company and this process, it could be as soon as next month or in October, when the final yay or nay from the FAA will come back. And right now we're in the negotiation phase with the company. It's not just us. There's several entities, including the governor's office, that's working with the company in the overall incentives package. And in Elon's words, he pretty much said he expects to make a decision by year's end. We're hopeful that it'll be sooner than that, might be the October timeframe. And by then we'll know whether I have a job or not. But we are in competition. We continue to be in competition. Florida, obviously being Florida, they don't want to lose a project like this, because this is what they've built their tourism and aerospace industries around. Companies like this, NASA as well. So we're in competition with them. We're in competition with Georgia. They kind of came in as of late and have put a very, very nice offer on the table for the company, which includes land as well. And then Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is kind of like a long shot. But they're still in the race, and I don't want to say the front runners, but we're the ones that are getting looked at the most. We're the ones that are further in the process, both on the environmental as well as the incentives. If it ends up being the Brownsville area where they're gonna build, they'd be looking at starting construction early part of next year, and actual rocket launches would be towards the end of 2015, which is not that far away. So just kind of quickly wrapping up here, things to remember. This would be the first commercial rocket launch site in the world. That's one. The other one is, it can be done, as far as the environmental. They built it at Cape Canaveral. There's rocket launch sites in other parts of the United States, so it can be done. And then the other one is, this was leading up to the public hearings. We had 2 public hearings in the Brownsville area where people would come in and give their input. So as you can imagine, I was a nervous wreck because we were going to have a lot of people especially from Cameron County, coming in and either voicing their support or their opposition for the project. And for both hearings, we had more than 600 people show up, and which is pretty phenomenal. That's a lot of people for a public hearing. And of those, for both of them, the numbers were very similar. They had between 70 and 80 people sign up to speak. And of those who spoke, the majority were in favor. There was only combined, there were only like 4 that actually opposed it, and 1 that was neutral. So out of 160 to 170 people that actually signed up to say something, that's not a bad track record. So here's, what does it mean for us? The economic impact, obviously, is significant. For this whole area, it's a community changer. And for the first time, as we were speaking earlier today, for the first time, at least since I've been back when I graduated from UT, this is, we've never worked a project that we can actually say it's a community changer, a changer for the entire Rio Grande Valley. And I'll tell you something. I grew up, in Brownsville. My parents were from Matamoros, so I'm no different from a lot of the people up here in the Upper Valley. I love my place. I love my town, and I get tired of that mentality of people saying, well, we're Brownsville. Well, we're in the Rio Grande Valley. We're just so different than everybody else. That kind of wears on me. When we got this project, what I started telling people is like, here's your opportunity now to make a difference. Here's your opportunity to truly help transform this whole region. We don't, other cities, other regions our size just wish they would have an opportunity to work a project like this. So here it is. I'd like to say that, since we started kind of saying that over and over again, that's how we got a lot of people to come out and support the project. But that's exactly what it is. This is a project that's a community changer. And this is not the only project we're working. We got 2 other projects of, as you know, Letty, of significance for a region that would just totally transform this area. And I'll tell you this much now, and I'm starting to see the benefits of just changing the image of this area. When we meet with, in the last year, when we met with some of the Fortune 500 corporate executives, and we walk into their offices or their boardrooms, right off the bat, the first question or the first topic that they would have was if violence has, simmered down, and if people have people stopped carrying guns, and they're asking about the U.S. side of the border, and we're kind of like, 1, that's not the case, and 2, there's other projects that we have that will show you what it is that how it's going to transform the region. Well, that was then. Now, when we walk in, the first thing that they ask us is SpaceX. It's like, wow, tell us about SpaceX. That to me already shows how this project is already to change the image. It's going to be a process, but how it's starting to change the image and how it's now starting to take us to that next level, and how I like to tell people now we're going, we walk into these major companies and we're going from this stack of cards to the small stack of cards on their desk now, where they know this whole region, and they know us now on a first name basis. And a lot of it has to do with this project. Some people will say, well, it's a project that landed on your laps. Yeah, you could probably say that, but we've had many opportunities to lose it, and we're still in it. So with that, believe in this region, because we have the opportunity to transform our destiny.
We have a couple of minutes if you guys have any questions that you'd like to address.
Yes, sir.
How is U.S. Fish and Wildlife weighed in on the project?
Okay, good question. They oppose everything. Yeah, I mean, that's the best way I can answer that one. They oppose everything. Yeah.
I have a question, and part of it has to do with that, with the environment. Is why does it seem like these windmills and SpaceX are targeting our beaches? Is there any consideration given to the loss of the panoramic view of the area?
Okay, good question, thanks. On the wind projects, the offshore wind project, I think that's the one you're referring to. Okay, yeah, that one is, from what I understand, is not going to be visible or as visible because it's still going to be about 20 miles offshore and about 10 miles north of the actual island. So it's going to be out there, that's one. And they haven't finished their environmental process. The other one on SpaceX, who here has been to Boca Chica Beach? That's a lot of people. It was quite a few. I was impressed. When the company first came down, more than 2 years ago, and said we're planning to work this project and we have a piece of property that we're looking at. It's actually a private piece of property. They're not building on public land. It's a private piece. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Going back to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and going back to that answer, the entire beach is pretty much either Texas Parks or U.S. Fish and Wildlife. But there was just this little 50-acre, donut hole out there that was privately owned, and that's the one that they're working on. When they first came in and said that they wanted to go look at the beach and the property, I was embarrassed. I felt like they were going to come into my house and I hadn't washed dishes or something. That beach is a mess. That beach is a mess, and I blame it on the people that go out there. I mean, it's embarrassing. I grew up going out to that beach to go fishing. So they have come out and said they're going to adopt the beach. They're going to help clean the beach. As far as the panoramic, I mean, that's something that we're going to have to live with. I mean, I think, I grew up going out there fishing. I still go. I'm going to be out there tomorrow. I haven't told my boss, but I'm going to be out there tomorrow. And I think, for the most part, I know the people that go out there to fish and or enjoy the beach. And I think the majority of them would say, you know what, bringing in a company like SpaceX and everything else that's going to come in is a small sacrifice to pay for what we're going to have in return. So that's and we've heard that from a lot of people. But the other one is they're developing programs for people who are interested in helping better the beach, helping really beautify and help protect some of these species that we have out there. We have the ocelots. We have sea turtles. Not a lot of sea turtles at Boca Chica Beach, but we do have some. So they're creating a program that will be working not only with the schools but with individuals, like yourself, who say, you know what, this company's coming in and I don't appreciate, or I don't think they're going to be working hand in hand and helping save our beach. Well, they came out and they're creating that organization. So for people who have said, you know what, I'm worried about the sea turtles, here's your opportunity. The company, and this is what the company already does at Cape Canaveral as well as the California area. So they're being extremely proactive, and we work with a lot of companies in the past, and this is the one that has really come in, head above shoulders as far as trying to work with the environment. And they got the full blessing from the Sierra Club. Sierra Club came to the actual public hearing and they spoke in favor of the project, because rocket launch sites, when they build a rocket launch site, nothing else builds around it. If you think of Cape Canaveral, there's nothing around it because you don't want anybody close to it. And that's exactly why the Sierra Club came in to support it, because they said by building this project out there, one, it cleans the beaches, and two, it helps really helps the environment and the wildlife flourish out there. Does that help? Okay.
So the rockets take off from there?
Yes.
Where do they land?
They land not there. They go up into outer space, and the capsule, whether it's going to dock with the International Space Station or if it's going to orbit the Earth, whatever it is it's going to do, the re-entry is always on the Pacific side. And it's very interesting because it always lands right on the international boundary, U.S. and Mexico international boundary on the Pacific Ocean.
sake, I know y'all probably have more questions, but we have we have some business to conduct, and so I'd like to thank Gilbert for being here. Can y'all give him a good round of applause?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda, I would like to introduce Chase Roberts again. If Chase, you'd like a couple of minutes to say something about your company and give away your door prize. Here he comes.
Nobody walked out at me. It's hard to follow them, but
How's it going?
I just have a couple of things
Good
to
to see you
say,
too,
and
yeah.
I won't take up too much of y'all's time because I know everybody's busy. But I did drop off brochures on everybody's seat, and there is a couple of things that I want to mention to y'all about First American. I am Chase McRoberts, by the way, and I am with First American Home Warranty. The brochure there is the resale transaction brochure, so if anybody is currently representing either a buyer or a seller, that would be the brochure that's available to your clients. It is $375 for the basic buyer's coverage. I am the only company that's covering unknown pre-existing conditions, and you will see that on the back of the brochure down here in red under the basic covered items. That is something that all warranties used to do about 5 years ago, but we're the only ones that have been able to stick that out. So that is a difference in some of the companies there. One of the other things that I do want to mention too is upon the renewal, I want to make sure y'all know what your clients are getting and also what they would be renewing with. With First American, I renew them exactly with the same coverage that they had. We're not removing coverage. And also too, the service fee stays the same at $60. And I'm the only company in this area doing both of those things, renewing them with the same coverage the second year and keeping the service fee the same. So, you know, you can feel safe sending your people to First American and knowing that they're getting exactly what they originally set out to get as well, even on that second year. One last thing that I will mention to you is my cell phone number is on my card. Feel free to give me a call anytime. Happy to help y'all answer any questions for any of your clients. And I know anybody that's probably called me in here can attest to the fact that I will answer or call you back. So y'all let me know if you need anything. And lastly, but certainly most importantly, thank y'all for your business. And two other things I'll quickly say is we do have a property management plan, as well as anybody that would like a home warranty that is not currently going through a resale transaction. Maybe they bought their house a couple of years ago, or maybe they want to even just switch companies. I have a plan for them as well, a consumer plan, and I am running a discount on that currently. I have those up here. If anybody's interested in either of those plans, see me after this. I'll be happy to get y'all those. They will need to call me directly on either of those two plans. So again, thank y'all very much, and I do have a couple of door prizes here as well. Sure, I guess. Nobody hold me accountable. All right. That's true. That's true. And there's no name on them, so. This is truly anonymous. No name here on the ticket. 429171. Does anybody have their blue ticket? All right. Oh, I was going to say, you seem to win a lot, so. 429171. Mr. Massey. And then I was going to do one for the affiliate. So I'm doing one realtor and one affiliate one. That way, if any of the title companies win, put in a good word with some of you ladies and guys out there. All right. Let's see. I have 241808. Red ticket. 241808.
Next.
No one? Everybody check? Okay, 241845. All right. Thank you. Thank y'all again. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chase.
Eugene.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the presentation of the slate of officers. Is anyone here that served on the nominating committee? I see some of the folks. They put in a lot of time and effort, a lot of hours calling and interviewing and putting this slate together. Nominating committee, y'all look around. Thank you very much. They put in a lot of hard work. Okay, so here's where we're at. I'm sure y'all already received this. You should have received the slate of officers. I'm going to read you the slate of officers, and then we will open the floor up for anyone that would want to run from the floor. This would be your only opportunity. Once that's closed, then in September we have our annual membership meeting, and then you all will vote on the slate of officers. So the nominating committee presented this slate of officers to the board of directors at our last board of directors meeting. Secretary, Yolanda Sanchez. Treasurer, Eva Jean Dalton. Board of director, J.D. Variel. And board of director, Lillian Renner. Also, too, I would like to let you know that Robbie Valadez has put his name in for president-elect. So it was after the nominating committee had given the slate of officers to the board of directors, and the board of directors had voted. So I would like to put Robbie's name forth as president-elect. So I'm presenting his name from the floor. So at this time, I would open up the floor for any nominations.
Nominate Betty Gaston for treasurer.
Okay, Betty Gaston for treasurer. You don't need a second. Is there, because we're not voting on anything today, is there any other nominations from the floor?